If you've ever adjusted triple screens, you probably know what a pain it is to get the alignment perfect. So today we're having a look at the Trak Racer Vesa mounts that allow for easy variable adjustment. First of all, thank you very much to Trak Racer for providing these for the review. But of course, as always, Trak Racer does not get to see the video before it's posted, and all the thoughts and opinions are my own. So the price for these is 39 euros roughly for one, or 103 euros for a set. And the build quality also is pretty good. It's like the typical Trak Racer stuff. You feel like it could be a little bit better, but it's definitely more than good enough. So what do you get in the box? You get the Vesa mount, you get tons of screws for different monitor types, and some brackets to make this a little longer for bigger monitors. Unfortunately, it does not come with standoffs. Like for all the monitors that I have mounted for, I always needed these little standoffs because the Vesa mount on the monitor was not flush on the backside, but slightly recessed inwards. So I would love to see standoffs in the box, but you do have to source them yourself. So this thing works for 40 by 40 profiles, for 80 by 40 profiles, but also for the tube frame mounts. But let's say I'll quickly show you how to attach it to a 40-40, 80-20 profile first. So for that, you want to take the mount apart. It's relatively easy. There is a locking screw on the top here. Just remove that. And then the part on the front comes apart. You mount this to your monitor. We're not going to do it here because there's limited space on the desk. But basically take this, mount it to your monitor. And then, for the side arms, if you have access, you can just slide this in. Obviously you have to remove the plastic cap, but this would work. But if you don't have access to it because all the sides are blocked, I'll quickly show you how to attach it then. There are 3 small screws that you need to remove. And then this part comes off. You can put this to the side. And what you want to do is mount this to your monitor stand. So just put it on here. Obviously make sure the screws are not protruding here. Put it on. And then one thing I do not really like how you mount it, even on 80-20 profiles, you just tighten the screws and it will perfectly work and hold this in place. But if you tighten this, it will scratch up the profile nut. It's the back of the monitor stand. I don't think it's a big deal, but I also know how picky some sim racers are. So I would have loved to see maybe 2 more mounting holes without threads. These are threaded holes where you can just use a shorter screw and use T-nuts. Like I said, this will work fine, but if you tighten it, it will leave marks on the profile. But yeah, once you have attached this to your profile, what you then want to do is take this part here again, put this on, and then just mount this to the front like this. And then just put in the 3 little screws again. And you're good to go. So this is the front where the monitor will sit. This is the back with the 2 screws. If you want to move the position, just loosen these screws and then you can easily slide it on the profile. That's an advantage because T-nuts, I think it's not as easy to move it around. So if you don't care about scratching your profile slightly, then this might be the better solution. But yeah, I just wish there were two holes here instead of this elongated hole. You could mount it with 1 screw here and a T-nut, but I would love to see these maybe a little bit more to the outside and then 2 more normal holes for T-nut mounting. Then the next thing, what you want to do, obviously attach this to your monitor, and then you can just take this whole thing and put it on here. Make sure you do not lose the locking screw. Once the monitor is on, I would recommend to slightly tighten the locking screw, not a lot, just like maybe 3 or 4 rotations, so that the monitor cannot fall off again. And then what this thing is doing is it basically lets you adjust the height of the monitor, left, right, and the tilt with these screws in the back. And if you have ever adjusted a triple screen monitor setup, you know what a giant pain in the ass it can be to get the alignment right. Especially, for example, if you use a bezel-free kit, makes it even worse in my opinion. But using these kind of adapters makes it super easy. So let's say your monitor is slightly off by a few degrees. All you do is like use these screws. I'm exaggerating now, obviously. But like that, you can correct the left, right. If the monitor is sagging on one side, for example, you can correct it with that. You can also do the fine tuning of the left, right position using these screws here. So let's say you want to move the monitor to this side, then loosen this screw, obviously. And then you can just use this screw to slide the whole thing over to the side. Very nice. After you're done, obviously just counter it with the screw on the other side to tighten it a little bit in place. And then also the angle or tilt of the monitor can be very, very nicely adjusted with these thumb screws in the back. I don't know why there are two, because that seems a bit, I don't know, unnecessary. But I mean, whatever. So let's say you want the monitor to be a little bit closer to you on the bottom, then just use the thumb screws to adjust the angle here, adjust the second one as well after you're done. And you're good to go. It's very, very easy. I mean, 103 euros seems like a lot of money for monitor adjustment. But honestly, you do not want to go through the hassle of having to adjust a triple screen monitor setup without these vario mounts. It makes your life so much easier. It's just, believe me, if you get triples, get one of these. After you've found your perfect alignment, there's also the locking screw. I would be careful with this screw because I tried it on my rig. And don't tighten it too much because it will screw up your alignment slightly again. So I would just like tighten it, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 Newton meters, like barely, to hold it in place. It doesn't hurt. You don't have to use it like other Vario Vesa mounts don't even have a locking screw. So this is more like an optional thing. Okay, another thing that was a little bit a problem for me. On my monitor stand, I have all my power outlets mounted to the back of the profile, so this will collide with the screws, so I couldn't really use this in my daily rig. But I mean, obviously, if you plan accordingly, this is not a big deal. But that already is pretty much it for the variable Vesa mount. You also get a version that works with 80 by 40 profiles, so you would just replace this little arm here. I don't really know why they don't just always use this, because I mean, maybe like if they use it for their tube frames so it doesn't really slip out of place, I don't know. If you have 80 by 40 profiles, you need to exchange this bracket here to allow for the clearance for the bigger profiles. So Trak Racer was not the first with this idea. There's also a version from SimLab for 89 euros, which I think has the slightly better build quality. It looks a bit nicer, has some aluminum parts. I do like the adjustment with those thumb screws here on the Trak Racer though. Also on the SimLab one, the adjustment will be hidden in between monitor and profile. Like think of screws that you need to reach with a tool, with an Allen key. Like in this area, it's not a big deal. But it's easier on this one with all the adjustments on top of your monitor bar. It is also a bit pricier, but yeah, I think this is probably the easier to use solution. Then there's also one from Advanced Sim Racing. I never tried that one. It's $170 plus taxes, I think, so way more expensive than all the other options. At least from the pictures, it doesn't look like it's doing anything better than SimLab or Trak Racer. And if you want a slightly cheaper alternative, there's also one from SimGrade for 66 euros, which doesn't really have the fancy screws on the side and on the bottom. They actually do everything with 4 screws or like 6 screws on top, 4 screws to adjust everything like height, angle and tilt, and then 2 locking screws basically. Also a very, very clever idea if you ask me. But yeah, whatever you get, I think all of these solutions are nice. If I would build a new triple stand, I would probably go with the Trak Racers and just drill out these holes and use T-nuts to attach it. I mean, in theory, you can go into a T-nut with this, but you don't want to do thread into thread. It's not a good idea. It will destroy one of your threads. I mean, probably not this one here because this looks like massive steel or something. I guess you will probably destroy the T-nuts in the slot, but yeah, I would probably just drill these out and use normal T-nuts. But that's already it for the video. Like I said, if you build a triple screen setup, just whichever one you pick, they all work. I would probably go with the Trak Racer because it seems the easiest to adjust, but do yourself a favor. If you're not on a super tight budget, invest into this. Like if you need regular Vesa mounts, then I think you pay like 30, 40 euros. These are, depending on which ones you get, $66 to $170. But honestly, just grab one of those. Let me in the comments down below if you made the same experience. Like if you have ever adjusted a triple screen mount without these, just let me know how much you hated your life because it was terrible. And I was like using little paper to get the angle of the monitor correctly. Not a lot of joy. So get one of those and thank me later. But yeah, that's it for the video. If you liked it, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel to not miss any future videos. And I hope to see you all in the next one. Bye bye.